love to be God magnet. Lobsters and I don't you grab it.
Welcome to Lobster Magnet's Review the Channel.
Yo.
We are here a little later than I'd like, but we're here nonetheless, as we promised, to review the things that I find mildly interesting and can guilt other people into reviewing with me. I'm here with my buddy, Gorogregoro.
Yo.
And we are also here with the Garbage Man.
Dan the Garbage Man.
So a good old buddy we know from college who came here to visit Gorogregoro, and because he's sitting there and lazing around, he decided to join us in this review.
I just stumbled in drunk. I have no idea what the fuck this is.
He has no idea what's going on, so, but, you know, I'm sure he'll add interesting color commentary as we rant and discuss this chapter. So, Greg, I was very enthusiastic. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was like a complete, turnaround for Dr. Stone. I feel like this is like making the series that, it needs to be versus what we've been getting previously. You were not a fan of the chapter. Why is that?
I said I had mixed feelings about it, and the reason is I feel like it's only a short-term kind of satisfaction we're getting right now with like the introduction of neat characters and them interacting well with each other, but overall it hasn't really fixed the main issue with like the stories and like how the stories were told like earlier on. I guess I'm just like sort of recollecting back to that instance where Senku had that like 3 to 4 chapter flashback of him having flashbacks of his entire life, and all for basically nothing, where he just got like, oh, I got a cramped back.
I hated that, but this feels like such a good turn. This is like what the series should be. And for the Garbage Man, I'll give some context. Dr. Stone is a Shonen Jump series that just started in its infancy. They did basically a thing where they like published 6 new serializations, to like kind of build the next hit now that like 2 out of the big 3 are dead. And the fact that like, they're kind of in a position where they need another mega hit internationally.
Yeah.
Half of those series are now dead. They've been canceled. Out of those 6, I think Dr. Stone was the most promising. It is a great, one of the more interesting pilot chapters. And the setup is this. Average high school kid, there's one dumb high school kid, and then there's one really smart high school kid who loves science. He's basically like Neil deGrasse Tyson on shonen anime steroids.
Okay.
I'm the best. I know all this cool science stuff to teach you edutainment. Then everyone turns to Stone. And then it fast forwards to like 3,000 years in the future. Dr. Science Guy and the average kid break out of Stone, and basically they're starting, rebuilding civilization from the very beginning as they learn how to like unpetrify people. And the whole goal of the series is basically to reclaim civilization. And the Science Guy wants to bring us back to the technological age that we were before.
This sounds like Wayward Pines.
Wayward Pines? What was that?
Wayward Pines. It's a show based on a book.
I know what you're talking about, Wayward Pines, with the M. Night Shyamalan show, right?
Yes.
Not quite, because there are no monsters, and it's basically like, Naked and Afraid, and they're basically stuck in a prehistoric time.
Yeah.
So far there's no powers, and, there's just like animals and shit, and, they have to rebuild civilization.
So even though it's future, it's basically past. It's like...
Yeah, exactly. Even though it's in the future, there's no future technology. But now the scope of the series is, it's still in its infancy. It's like only like a couple chapters in. So, they had like a villain character.
18 chapters to be exact.
Yeah, 18 chapters.
There's no like H.G. Wells time machine level kind of shit going on yet?
No.
All right.
At least not in the
They're
moment.
literally like rebuilding Bronze Age civilization.
Okay.
So, like, what I think the series is at its best is when he's like, the power of mankind and science. I'm making toys and teaching you interesting things about chemicals. That's what drew me into the series, and I think those are the better moments. The worst moments, like, when it becomes more kind of like bog standard. Like, recently they introduced like a whole new civilization that like essentially like grew up some point like 100 years ago or whatever. They think all science is sorcery. So he meets his rival character and is like, I'm going to have a sorcery battle with you. And basically all the stuff he knows is like basic science that he says is sorcery. So their sorcery battle is just him like throwing magnesium in a fire and turning colors. And everyone thinks it's the
right.
best.
Okay. So also like a kid in King Arthur's court.
A Kid in King Arthur's Court? That's another movie?
No, it's a story.
Okay.
But it was a movie.
But it's like using sorcery and that kind of aspect?
Okay, like, a kid gets taken back in time through Merlin's magic or whatever into King Arthur's court, and he basically shows them a bunch of modern stuff to make himself look like a wizard. Kind of backfires. It kind of gets dangerous all over the place. It's very interesting. It's a classic story.
I guess in some respects it could be like at this point in the story because these people are so primitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are just recently discovered primitive people.
Yeah.
He like makes bubbles with like soap, and everyone's like freaking out. It's like, oh my god, what is this sorcery and magic? These bubbles, we don't know what to deal with.
Yeah.
They're like flying jewels. What are these flying colorful jewels in the sky?
So they haven't like predicted an eclipse and been like, I did this.
Predicted an eclipse?
A lunar
No,
eclipse?
they haven't done anything like that.
Okay.
But that's why I enjoyed this chapter. It felt like a return to basics. I like the fact that he's like, oh, you kid have the power of science for me, and that is what I love so much. For the power of science is amazing. And that's why I feel like this chapter is much stronger, and it's so far it's like a stronger indication of where the series could be going. Even though we had like borderline terrible chapter where they showed like 40 fucking people who were like you remember that, Greg, where they showed all the different characters?
I do remember that, and he was one of them. He was one of those characters. But I'm getting like weird flashbacks from like iShield 21, and like I get such bad vibes when I remember some aspects of like iShield 21 where they introduced random characters that what?
I thought you loved iShield 21.
I did to, a certain extent, but then it became a little bit repetitive. I feel like this is going to be a repetitive thing that this writer does from time to time.
Now, how would you define it? What is this like trait from iShield 21 that like you find is so repetitive? I'm not familiar with the series.
Well,
I'm not a big sports manga guy.
Well, I've said before, like this is very hard for me to articulate. And there's something about the way like introduce characters in like a super over dramatic way, but then like kind of leaves them, I guess, on the wayside, like after the next billion chapters afterwards. I think it does really well with like the way it introduces its characters, but it doesn't
like
really
Greg,
feel like
isn't
long
that what
lasting.
fucking Hunter x Hunter does? Like you love Hunter x Hunter, and they've like 5 bajillion characters we will never see again who are not important.
But like, okay, look at like how this manga introduces characters. Like they're all always like introduced in a super flashy way. Like I should be the main character of this story, and I'm super badass because but I'm not really going to be the main character. I'm just showing off and showing, all the spunk I have, even though I don't really have any spunk. And I'm not going to show any spunk later on in the series.
So what? You think they get like front loaded in terms of like they get a big artistic, a big introduction, and then they kind of like fade off to the distance?
I think so. It's like with
like Bleach.
Well, Bleach, man, that's an interesting comparison.
Did you follow it to the end, Jimmy?
No, I didn't. But like for the longest time, it just kept being like, my dick got even bigger.
I don't know, if you ever have the time, there's this great video this guy did called Super Eye Patch Wolf where he talks about the end of Bleach and why it like ended so disastrously. I'd highly recommend it for anyone who like watched Bleach or enjoyed it in the past.
I would watch that. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a good summary of like.
It's such a fucking good video. You should like you watch it like after we're done with this or something.
I should say why it was good.
I watched
and then
your review of why Ghostbusters bombed, and that was very on point. I thought.
Oh, thank you.
You did a very good analysis of that, especially when you compared it to the other movie. Watch, what is it, like Neighborhood Watch? Oh, The Watch. Oh my God, I didn't put that together, but I was like, that is exactly what that is. That is.
It's the exact same brand of comedy that fucking Ghostbusters.
And it was such a forgettable movie. Like I forgot it existed. It was like, yes, I watched this. It was just like,
Did you actually watch it too?
I watched The Watch and forgot it existed. It was just like so neutral. You couldn't really say anything about it.
Yeah, yeah. That happens with like a lot of mainstream modern comedies, especially like stuff that's kind of, some of it's like funny, some of it's like his memorable things, so then it just kind of fades out of memory because it's like, just dudes being dudes.
Yeah,
and
you jam Ben Stiller in there, and
And Vince Vaughn, and I forget the other guy, the kind of British guy's name. I feel like he almost became something, then kind of faded away.
He had an HBO thing for a minute, and then I think already's been canceled.
Oh, I think I know you're talking about the guy who was in The Office.
Was he? He might have been in The Office. Not Craig Robinson, but I think his name is Richard or something.
I have no idea.
Well, whatever. Anyway, back to
Dr. Stone. So you're afraid that like all these characters get like super big, over the top interactions, and then they whatchamacallit?
Yes, I feel that is generally the case with how they introduce like characters in Eye Shield 21, where it's like, you get sort of like this good feeling like, oh, this character's gonna be so cool to hang out with, like he's gonna feel important part of the party, but he gets like shoved away to the wayside a little bit, later on in this, like a little bit later on in the story. He's just like there. He's just like kind of like a standing presence.
About like any
there.
shonen manga, like fucking Kishimoto like had the 7 genin like pretty much shoved along to the side, because he didn't have enough time or any way to make them do anything interesting.
No, but like with the genin though, he had each of them. Like with the Chasing Sasuke arc, like they each had their like shining moments.
They don't do shit. Like they do next to nothing.
True.
I don't know. I guess maybe
so
I have to look at Eye Shield 21 again in order to like really be able to articulate this feeling.
Because I'm really curious what this thing you're trying to articulate about, but like I don't know, maybe you should watch the Eye Shield 21 anime, and maybe that'll help you. Like, it'll crystallize what you think, because it is the same writer. Just to let you know, the other interesting thing about that.
You see, like towards the end of the chapter, like the guy he's super showing off, like I have all this sorcery and stuff, and then he's like easily beaten at the end. He's just like, okay, I'm gonna be your lawful servant. I'm gonna help. He's basically like, I'm gonna be your assistant now. At the end of the chapter, in a sense.
I mean, I'll give you that in the end, where it's like, let's have an arithmetic battle, and then it just says he wins. That felt anticlimactic to me, because I actually did want to have an arithmetic battle. Like, I guess that like what separates like a really good, anal manga author from like a lazy one is that they'll come up with something clever, and have it in the details versus like oh, he won, storehouse acquired.
I want to show Jimmy the arithmetic battle at the end. Fight me now with arithmetic. And then the next panel, and this is how they end the chapter.
What? It's a whiteboard challenge?
Do
you get a job at Facebook afterwards?
Facebook doesn't exist in the stone world.
It just feels really anticlimactic. It's like a way to just like, hype up a character, and then like he's gonna be basically set up as like, oh, I'm Dr. Stone's assistant now.
I mean, sure. Like, what's so bad about that? A little assistant for Dr. Stone. He needs a new assistant now that like stamina guy's gone.
But he's the all that charisma, like in the very beginning when he was introduced, is like now gonna be all like thrown out on the wayside, and be like, okay, I'm now gonna be more humble because you're obviously the better scientist.
What you're describing is a perfectly fine growth, like, because we know the guy's over the top. He's introduced in an over the top way. We get the stupid imaginary magical science laser battle sorcery, in the imagined world. But we know that this guy is not as smart as Dr. Stone.
Yeah, but
I'll take a refreshment break. Do you need anything?
There's no more of these?
No, that's the last one. You got the last one. I'm just getting some water, but I can make the other thing.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Why not?
Is that Alamo Drafthouse glass?
This is
No, the one Jimmy has. Is that the Alamo Drafthouse glass?
Jimmy, is that an Alamo Drafthouse glass? Oh, yeah, it is. It's the one...
I knew it.
It's the one from... This is from the Arnold Schwarzenegger marathon that me and Isaac went to.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah. So, well, like for me, I liked it. I don't mind that he's like, he's obviously full of bluster and bullshit. That's the sort of appeal of like having a big guy there. So I don't mind him being a minor character. But I do think it's interesting that now we have like someone who's like not quite as equal, but at least is on a similar plane as Dr. Stone.
Yeah, I just feel like this has sort of like been a big setup character for like, all right, I'm gonna be sort of self-righteous, but not like self-righteous. What do I mean? Like I'm gonna like over-exaggerate my self-importance, but I'm basically gonna be Dr. Stone's like or Senku's main assistant. By the end of this chapter.
Well, that didn't bug me so much though. That's what he was always destined to be. He was filled with a bluster and he was filled with bullshit, and that's what I kind of like what he was being built up for. So all right, so we've spent a decent amount of time on good old Dr. Stone. What would you rate this chapter? For me, it's a 9.
A 9. Ooh.
I really like this chapter. I feel like it's a huge turn based from like the negative trend we've been seeing and some of the things I didn't like, and it felt like it was like back to like what made me enjoy the series originally.
It's because like I'm familiar with Eyeshield 21 and some of its patterns that it's done before. I feel like this is like reverting back to what Eyeshield 21 would do, and then later disregard its characters. I'm getting some bad vibes from it, and I'm a little bit reluctant. I mean, I like the introduction to Chrome. I think he's really, he was a really fun character for like that brief moment in time, but I feel like it's not gonna last. I'm gonna have to give this to a 7 because like right now he's like
cool.
He's hyped up. He's gonna be hyped up to an overly
He's not hyped up. He's a bullshit artist who believes he's making sorcery through basic like fucking kindergarten level science. So that's why it's fun to see him get undercut. He's not supposed to be a badass.
I understand. It's just like he's going to be thrown under the bus really soon, and he's just going to be Senku's assistant.
He lost in his arithmetic battle.
Yes, he's thrown under the bus right now, and he's just he signed up to like it's like right off the bat, like fight me now, and I'll be your. I'll give you everything in my storehouse. I'll give you all my equipment. I'll be your useful assistant if you win this battle. That's basically what he became. He just became like this, this character is like, I'm going to help you level up if you beat me in this battle. And, okay, fine, you win. Now I'm just your faithful, assistant servant for the rest of this manga.
Your manservant.
Exactly.
I don't know. It doesn't bug me so much. I wasn't expecting him to be a cool character when he first comes in. And he's got that like weird face with the lips and the teeth. I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a funny over the top character.
Like that.
And you know what? I love the like Bill Nye the Science Guy level science.
He's just like changing color of the fire. And figuring out how to do static electricity.
He's like, oh shit, he knows the crystals I get from the cave, and Dr. Stone has like an appreciation for him because of the fact that like even though he doesn't understand what he's doing, he thinks he's doing magic. He's still an inquisitive personality who wants to challenge the nature of reality by following a primitive version of the scientific method.
Yeah, I mean, some of that science stuff was kind of neat and interesting, like. The different colors of the fire, what their formulas was. What else? The static electricity sulfur ball, that was also kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, those are just like little very brief moments of like interesting things going on, but like later on with the story, I feel like it's going to suffer. Because of, things like this.
I don't think it will. But we'll see whose opinion pans out. You obviously, 7's your opinion. So you gave it a 7. I gave it a 9. We'll see if the chapter goes up. We spent more than enough time on Dr. Stone. So now it's chilling time. Greg, are we in the center or are we in the bottom?
We're in the center.
Okay, so we're in the center. I'm going to put it up top. Buy this Dr. Stone chemistry kit. You, too, can be Dr. Stone by using this high school chemistry kit and learn about fucking child science because God knows real science is hard, but child science is meant to be edutainment. So, make chemicals and shit and do all kinds of cool stuff with the awesome chemistry kit. Go buy the chemistry kit. If you don't want a chemistry kit, buy something else that helps you down. Of course, the chemistry kit affiliate link is going to be down there. So, go enjoy that.
All right, Dr. Stone Chemistry, that seems very appropriate for this manga.
It's very appropriate for this chapter.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed Garbage Man with his interesting commentary. And I hope you guys have a wonderful time.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
Bye.
Maggots made of iron, lobsters made of iron.